So I'll give a very quick presentation on the future of commercial space in this global investors meet. I'm just out of the government, just only one month after that. So my talk will be more biased towards ISRO, not yet into the private eco space system, but still I will try to cover something that's very important for, if you look at the commercial space. As far as ISRO is concerned, we have been working to make sure the transitioning from a government-owned space program to more of a space ecosystem where the private and government will come into action to primarily to scale up the way in which that we have been working in space by creation of the new entities, the InSpace, the NSIL, the public sector undertaking, and many other activities have been happening in and around the primary verticals that ISRO has been trying to do. Of course, I'll talk about some of the outcome of it, which is very important as far as the commercial space is concerned. And one of the study that was recently done indicated that the outcome of the investment that you have made in government space expenditure has been really substantial in terms of the, for every $1 that has been invested, the return of investment has been as much as 2.54. Possibly it could be higher. One of the recent update is almost 3. And also they brought out a study with respect to the total, the boosting of the public funding, the total employment generation, the cumulative national economy contribution, and which all sectors it has really helped. And there is a detailed report which is going to be released. Possibly you can read and understand that a little later. So today's purpose is not into that. Then I won't spend more time on it. The primary goal of the space sector reform in the recent times is to create a national space enterprise consisting of the ISRO, which is the Department of Space and ISRO, which is the primary research and development organization, the New Space India Limited, which is a PSU, which will own and operate most of the activities that ISRO has been doing, the InSpace, which is the handholder, promoter, authorizer of the private space ecosystem, and many other players, actors, industries, autonomous bodies, academic institutions that are there with us. The goal which is set by all of us in the space sector reform is to really scale up the space economy contribution from a 2% to a 10% level. Possibly the number of, in terms of dollars, it may differ based on how much is the global space economy is valued at $500 billion. It's valued now. Possibly it will grow to 800 billion or so in next 5-10 years of time. So the appropriate share of that must be the target. And this is possible only by participation of large number of private ecosystem into the space sector. Now Bangalore is really blessed with a lot of such players. You know, even the genesis of ISRO, the space program being led from Bangalore is on account of the reason that the space and aerospace activity started with the institutions like Indian Institute of Science, my alma mater, and many other organizations that we work together, created that type of power and energy in space sector to grow in Bangalore. And especially when you discuss this in Bangalore as part of the growth of science and technology in Karnataka, I think we should be all proud and happy to be here to talk about the growth of space and aerospace ecosystem. Now talking about the global trends in space, I think all of you know very well that the trend today is to look at many of the points which I have mentioned here, though without expanding each of them. I would like to say that the growth in terms of the new generation of spacecrafts, looking at space manufacturing, servicing, deorbiting, and many other services becomes the primary mission goal of some of the new developers. Constellations becomes the new mantra, and how to launch constellation both in terms of Earth observation, communication, PNT, surveillance, all becomes a talking point because small satellite building and launching in numbers is now possible and accessible for most people. And then talking about space-based solutions like the IoT, automation, governance support, etc. becomes another topic. Space tourism, though it has not really scaled up or operated in size, still that's a topic of discussion. And space situational awareness, space traffic management, all becomes a successful model that many people are trying to emulate. Though there are governmental activities happening very much in this area, private ecosystem is also developing in these domains. If you look at the markets, you will see the upstream, downstream, and midstream. The rocket buildings, satellite building, the high technology area are part of the upstream, whereas the share of the investment and money could be very high there, but the percentage of return is low. But if the downstream, if you see, the revenue is much higher here. And the risk associated with building downstream business models are lower. So this becomes an important point, which I will elaborate a little later, which is a key purpose of my talk here. Another important point is a space policy 2023 brought in the usage of space-based data much wider in the community. It's very important for us now to talk about it, because satellite data has been traditionally been collected by ISRO satellites, now made it open now up to 5-meter resolution, and higher resolutions are actually sold out for as a price now. But then the data is now being consumed by the society, community in much bigger way than in the past. So this is a good the trend, but this is not enough now. We are looking at how the entire data can now move to the private ecosystem, and really monetizing the data in creating services and applications is another important topic which we should discuss. This slide we have been showing many a times, both in space and us, ISRO, when we were there, and I was then ISRO, that the number of startups, numbers that has increased substantially, the contribution in investment in startups have increased, and the growth in the space economy, as I mentioned, is really as a target, and some of the household names in startups and space companies are also being talked about. So a very important point that we should give confidence to anyone who wants to come into space sector and show this slide and tell them, yes, now we are in the beginning phase of it. If you are really interested, innovate and want to come in, this is the right time to come in. But there are challenges in this. This is something which you need to understand, and we must discuss when we are in the panel. Of course, some of the emerging private space sector is really making heads on like the Skyroot, the Agnikul, and other satellites like the Pixel, the Gandhra. I think all of them have been in the news in the recent times for good reasons, and we should all be proud of their initiative, their capacity to come up and then showcase something that is never happened before. The expanding Indian space ecosystem is something which is very important for the government now to look at it. While the private is going to grow in these sectors, but what the government is going to do. And one of the studies recently done indicated that the government investment in space will continue to remain at a very high percentage. Typically 60 to 70% of the space business will continue to be controlled by the government usages or investments. So as far as India is concerned, it's very clear now we are trying to invest more money into domains like exploration, like the moon missions, building space stations, targeting human spaceflight exploration, expansion, even targeting human landing on the moon. All this becomes part of that part of the work which will not be easily accessible for people in the industry. So how do you really monetize this work also in the long term is something, one topic that we should actually discuss. With respect to launcher capabilities, another important topic. One of the important points that we have seen globally is the access to space is now affordable for many people. The cost has come down. That's why there is a large scale number of the satellite launches taking place, and a lot of people are interested in working on it. So reusable rocket building has become mandatory. Though we delayed that process in India for some time, I'm very happy that I could work on it and then get an approval from the government to work on a reusable launch development. Possibly it will happen in 6-7 years of time, but we are already late. So we should look at how this can be accelerated, possibly look at some of the development that can happen in the private ecosystem as well. So I mentioned about the exploration program, the Vision 2047, in which the government has already committed to spend almost 2 lakh crores of money in space sector itself in this period of time, progressively investing and creating the capability, building missions to moon, scientific exploration, creating the capacity in institutions, and I'm sure many of the private players can really find out where you can actually pitch in to find out some roles to play. For example, the space station building, very important, which I want to tell you. When you build a space station of this nature, the Bharati Antarisha Station, it cannot survive there without doing any active research component. So which are the topics of interest where private ecosystem can come and then work in this microgravity environment, zero gravity environment, space radiation. For example, we identified a whole lot of research topics which could be interesting to industries, interesting to academic institutions, research laboratories, and this could be helping at least some of the industries who to scale up their work in as far as material research, medicine research synthesis, molecule synthesis, genomic research, space biology, all these domains, possibility of doing advanced research exist. Again, the topic of communication. I think communication is again an important topic in the geostationary side. It has been again a monopoly of ISRO in the past. Now that monopoly has been changed. All the satellites are now moved into the NSIL's domain, and more satellites will be built in the private domain also. Recently, announcement by InSpace, the first ever geostationary communication satellite will be built by a private company to launch, put in an Indian slot and then made available. So this is one opportunity to coordinate new slots for communication and put geosynchronous satellite launches and build them and launch from India. So this is again another opportunity, and some of the industries are pitching in to look at how we can register new slots and then take up this activity. Similarly, is a space-based observation. The first time in the country that we have signed contract with 3 private companies in India to build Earth observation satellites for strategic use. And this is a very, very good news for at least for startups and companies who are venturing into building satellites. The positioning, navigation, timing networks, for example, the GPS, the GLONASS, and others. The NAVIC is also already there in the space, and how to commercially exploit this is another topic. Of course, one of the launches that recently happened couldn't go to the orbit, and the NAVIC is still not in the fully operational regime. But I'm very happy that the new band called the L1 band has come into NAVIC, which will be helping the civilian use of navigation services from NAVIC to become operational. So this is another goal. And the next goal is to globally provide services, not just regional service, how to convert it to global constellation not at very high cost. So there is a model already worked out, and how to make it possible is another topic. Of course, when this comes, the business case is here, how to convert these services into commercialization, product development, and making it accessible to people in this country. In, for example, e-tolling, vehicle tracking, IoT, and many other services. Another major topic is the space debris. I am very happy at least 1 or 2 companies are working in the growing issue of space debris. And I don't want to give a talk on the dangers of space debris here, but the number is increasing, and the business case for handling space debris, providing services, space situational awareness, bringing them back, handling the situations like this, developing technologies to safeguard space asset from space debris, all becomes a business case for people who are interested. And one of the important topics recently addressed is how to create a space situational awareness network, primarily based on optical space telescopes, both ground-based and space-based. And one of the company in India has become successful in securing some contracts on putting space situational awareness capability in space. I think this is a huge thing that has really happened. And many of the technologies that ISRO was trying to develop, the robotics, like the docking, the robotic arms and services, deployers, refueling capability. I think these are some of the topics that at least 2 or 3 startup companies are already working in this domain in Bangalore. I hope that they will scale up in the coming days, and they will come up with solutions for new companies to be available here. So this again seems to be an interesting area, especially in the domain of robotics, electric propulsion, new algorithms that you can help you to observe, go proximity services, etc. Another area is the launcher development manufacturing area, where already the ISRO has announced that most of its launchers will move to industries. The initial steps are taken in moving the PSLV. The next steps of moving the SSLV, the LVM3 is already on the cards. I believe in another few months, the contracts for such transitioning to industry manufactured rockets will take place. And this will help at least 1 or 2 big companies to come up and establish manufacturing facilities in India, which is lacking very much, because the manufacturing capability in rockets today is well distributed and not really focused in one roof like what we see in other places, which is a potential business case for someone who is interested to invest and create that capability. Technology transfer is another area where there is a huge amount of technology in ISRO, and many people even today not aware of how much you can actually harness from ISRO and then take it to industry and scale up. For example, technologies in TRL level 7, 8 are actually available, but then nobody is really aware of it, and then possibility of such cooperation is still not entering into big scale. I will only tell you that the technology focus is something that ISRO has put for itself, and we have been developing technology in many domains. For example, AI, robotics, materials, quantum, space manufacturing. Many of these domains, actually there is large amount of skill available in ISRO. So I will only say those who are keen to work in space industry, find out opportunity, connect through in space, and then reach out to people in ISRO to know more about it. I will only conclude with one or two slides more, is only to tell you the commercial space market and business opportunities. I try to list them already in this, which are the one which is really available to you to work on, both in all three segments, the upstream, midstream, and downstream. In the upstream, I find that there is a huge potential to look at small launch vehicles and services, which is already happening. Maybe in a few years, it will be really become operational. Building rockets of large-scale rockets and its parts. In India, you are able to launch only 6, 7, 8 launches per year, primarily because the manufacturing ecosystem in this country is still lacking. And there is a demand for launches. For example, when I was a chairman, I got an offer that, are you in a position to launch 10 LVM-3 in 6 months? I said, no, I can't manufacture 10 launch vehicles in 6 months and launch. Just because that there are ecosystem for manufacturing is still not existing. So why don't we address such issues and really create a sustainable manufacturing base for it? Similarly, if you look at the midstream in terms of the small satellite manufacturing, even today, a large amount of parts are being imported and brought from, and then kits are assembled in terms of EO systems, the cameras, the inertial sensors, the propulsion. And we need to develop them and then create a cost-effective solution for it. Similarly, the downstream, I think EO data services, it's still unexplored. For example, for a country like 140 crore people, the application of EO data is still maybe 1% of the community. I think there is a huge amount of untapped potential. Of course, I don't want to elaborate on it. We will discuss in the meet discussions. Thank you so much. I think I just wanted to give an overview of what potentials are existing for commercial space in this country, making use of what we did in ISRO in the past. Thank you.